They survived the sinking, but they couldn't survive what came next. July 30th, 1945. The Pacific Ocean. Midnight. Silence was all that remained after the explosion, and then came the screaming. They called her Indy. A proud ship, a heavy cruiser, 1,196 souls on board. Just 4 days earlier, she had completed a secret mission, delivering parts of the atomic bomb that would later decimate Hiroshima. But now, she was headed to the Philippines. Calm waters, clear skies, and no one knew she was out there. No escort, no radar sweep, no backup, just the ship and the silence. At 12:15 a.m., 2 torpedoes from a Japanese submarine tore through her steel belly. The first hit the bow. The second struck the magazine. The explosion was so violent, it lifted the entire ship from the water. In just 12 minutes, the USS Indianapolis rolled onto her side and vanished beneath the waves. Of the 1,196 crew members, about 900 made it into the water alive. But that was just the beginning. There was no distress call. No one knew they were missing. They floated for 4 days and 5 nights. No food, no water, blistering sun by day, bone-chilling cold by night. Some drank seawater. Others went mad. And then the sharks came. The sharks struck at dawn, and they never stopped. They were oceanic white tips, aggressive, relentless, and unafraid. Survivors said you could feel them bump your legs before they attacked. Sometimes they dragged a man down screaming. Sometimes the water was red before anyone realized what had happened. Survivor quote, "You'd hear a scream, and then silence." On August 2nd, a rescue plane spotted an oil slick, and then the bodies. Only 316 men were pulled from the water alive. Hundreds died from exposure, dehydration, saltwater poisoning, or were eaten alive. It remains the worst disaster at sea in U.S. Navy history. Captain Charles McVeigh survived, and the Navy court-martialed him for not zigzagging. But the truth? No one had told him Japanese submarines were in the area. He was scapegoated for a tragedy the system created. Years later, after relentless public shame and grief, Captain McVeigh took his own life. It wasn't until 2000, 55 years later, that the U.S. government exonerated him. Even the commander of the Japanese submarine testified. Captain McVeigh was not at fault, but for the families and the 879 men who never made it home, the apology came far too late. On this day, July 30, a ship disappeared. Hundreds of men survived the unthinkable, only to die in a silence the world wasn't listening to. Let us never forget the price of war, or the silence of those left floating in the dark. In memory of the 879 men lost on USS